You so corny.
Yo, I'm back for the second time. It feels good.
Let's go.
I'm glad you're here, bro.
How you fellas feeling?
Feeling good, feeling great, feeling fine.
My man turned.
That energy is high.
That's work.
Listen.
That joint
You
is
say
high.
that? You said pheromones?
Yeah, pheromones still in there kicking.
Yeah.
Yo, and he in his seat. He in his rightful seat.
All right. So for y'all don't know that what's going on. These guys were just featured on a podcast that's also recorded here, called The Spiritual Tip. So shout out to Spiritual Tip.
Shouts out.
Big shout out. Hey, Brittany.
This
have
guy,
mercy.
man. Yo, shouts out to Spiritual Tip, man. We appreciate the love. We enjoyed our conversation today, and we want to make sure our supporters show them some love as well, man. Spiritual Tip.
So I wasn't featured on the episode, so I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm CJ Snuggy Harris.
I be Yogi Den Namaste.
Oz, catch me on TikTok at Corny Dads OJC. You heard?
Chico Ace Papa, whatever it is, man.
What the?
What?
Yeah, you just botched that.
I'm trying to vibe with you.
Yeah.
I wanted to switch it up, man. I didn't feel like I did this. Man.
Nah, bro.
Nah,
You slipped. It's cool.
I'll get y'all on the next one, man. I apologize.
But how you brothers feeling after being featured on somebody else's platform?
I felt at home.
Yeah, felt home. I felt, the ladies of the Spiritual Tip, what they were able to provide to us is an outlet that is different than what Corny Dads provide.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to vibe with them, their frequency, it was definitely dope. It was a great opportunity. Again, shouts out to the Spiritual Tip.
Yeah.
It was love.
Great subject matter, great questions, definitely great conversations, follow-up questions, definitely live. It's coming out soon, so.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel like you were able to take the mask off a little bit?
Yeah,
My
I think
mask's always on.
we were able to speak freely. Like I think on our show we were more, we were more in our dad mode. We concentrate on the children. This time we were able to concentrate on ourselves as men, right?
I agree.
And our relationships. So shouts out to them once again, man. They was able to get us out of our comfort zone for a moment.
Yeah.
So speaking of mask, there's something going on in the I guess amongst the youth right now, where they're walking around with these like ninja ski mask on and all of that stuff. They call them the poo shiesties. Dennis and I have the opportunity to speak to some of these kids a lot of the time, and they're able to take their mask off, and we're getting to learn them as people. How do you guys feel about just the kids, where we are amongst the youth at the moment in our prospective cities?
I feel like it's the misguided leading the misguided.
Blonde leading blonde for sure.
It starts with us, right? It starts with how we lead, right? A lot of times we're seeing, people saying, "Oh, what's going on with this generation?" But you got to understand who birthed this generation. You understand what I'm saying? We birthed the generation, right? And of course, there's some things happening in the world that's changing. But we just, at this very moment, we just have to get back down to the basics, right? And it's really about, in my opinion, it's really about learning who you are and having self-identity before you can start telling people who they should be.
Right.
You know what? My perspective is a little different. I'm actually proud of this generation that we got that's coming in now. It's easy for us to be able to identify what the media is portraying and what the media is showing us about what some of these young people are deciding to do. But there is a large population of this generation that's actually pushing the culture forward.
I agree.
Right? Because we're young enough, but we're young enough, but we're old enough not to really know how to really navigate these cell phones, right? And what they're able to do with social media, what they're able to do with some of the information that they because now information is readily available to you.
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying? So some of the things that I'm seeing some of these young people do with this power and this new tool that they have is incredible. So I'm here, honestly applauding them and pushing them. And I'm here applauding them and supporting them for what they're doing. But there is also another segment of the population that is lost and that they are misguided. So I just don't want to say that the entire population is lost and misguided, but I definitely want to give the flowers to the young people that's out here putting on, like really putting on.
I would say,
and they're even pushing like now they're pushing policy, right? Like I think ultimately what we were able to do is we were able to push the envelope, and now these kids they're running with it, and guess what? They're fearless.
Yeah, I think I was talking from a community standpoint, where I think you're talking about from a global standpoint, which I'm like, I'm with you at 100%. But when I'm talking on a small scale of what we're seeing in our neighborhoods. But I agree with you. These young people are fierce. These young people are moving, and they're not putting boundaries on anything, right? They're limitless.
They're limitless.
Yeah.
And that I appreciate, that I respect, and that's something that I think that generations before us, they feared.
Absolutely.
Listen, I think two great points that you guys made. I think we're at a point now where these kids do have the information. They have endless amounts of information, but on a smaller scale in our communities, we have to focus on redirection, right? Taking these negatives and turning them into positives. We look into our communities. We have geniuses all throughout our communities, but we're not able to curate them. We're not able to help them grow or really identify and really let them prosper. So I think that's one thing that we have to focus on as the eldersmen in our community. But in all honesty, like with these children right now, we just have to listen to them. We have to listen to them and really understand outside of what they're going through and the trials and tribulations that they're enduring, that we have to really try to help them push forward. So it is a trying time. It is a trying time right now with the youth.
I think one of the things that for me to be a part of the solution, I have to consistently engage. And my engagement, it doesn't stop with just programming. It's like sometimes it's just conversations. You know what I mean? Like I can talk to a kid in a group setting, but then we'll have a longer conversation on a one-on-one, and you can really engage with this kid, understand where he's coming from. You can understand what trauma he's experiencing, because trauma, the trauma that they're experiencing is a little different than what we experience.
For sure.
You gotta know that.
And the adults in their lives sometimes are also traumatized. So that engagement with him you can kind of break that history or that experience in further trauma, just making them aware of it. So in our program, of course, we use the you can't heal what you don't reveal. So we encourage them to talk. And the more they talk through our engagement, and they're getting more comfortable because we're becoming more transparent and we're being vulnerable. Kids don't like being lied to. So, and that's one thing that we learned is that being honest about who you are, but if you don't have an identity, the kids are, he don't know I can't trust that because he don't know who he is or what he's talking about. So if you have an identity, I think sometimes through those engagements that they start to gather themselves and their thoughts to start putting together their identity and what they want for themselves. Sometimes they can't see past the moment or the circumstance. So yeah, but as adults trying to help these kids, you have to know who you are. The problem is a lot of adults don't know who they are.
Facts. And that's the misguided leading the misguided, right? And it had to come down to a point. I could just share a story, right? Like just knowing my love language, right? Did so much for me, right? Because again, if I don't know who I am, I don't know how I like to be loved. I don't know how I like to be cared for. So I might lash out, not even knowing myself, right? And I think, like to your point, we don't even know these kids, right? These kids don't even know themselves, right? So that's why we see them shiesting it up, right? Because everybody else is doing it. It's like I'm trying to become something because I don't know who I am. So I could put literally putting a mask on, right? To be somebody else that they're actually not is showing you that's a representation of where we are right now in the identity crisis.
You know, I think ultimately what the Pooh Shiesty mask represent, or any mask represents, right, is the ability to hide behind something.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think whether it's a Pooh Shiesty mask, whether it's a basketball jersey, a football jersey, you understand what I'm saying? I believe that ultimately people, they're finding different ways to hide, right? Not just the youth, people are finding different ways to hide. One of the biggest tricks in the world for you to hide is behind these phones. Now you can be whoever you want to be on the internet, right? Not necessarily living the life that you're really living, right? But now you could be somebody completely different. So I say all of that to say, the youth that we are discussing today, they don't need us to be critical of them.
No,
they don't need us to critique them, especially if you're not putting in the work. If you don't put in the work, then you don't have a space to have a conversation about what the youth is doing.
Absolutely.
You do not have the space at all.
Right.
Talked about that.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're not, and I'm not talking about your kids, if you're not in the field with other people's children, giving them your time, giving them your effort, giving them your energy, providing them with your resources, you don't have the space to critique.
Agreed.
You don't.
Nah.
And we got so many people critiquing and being critical.
They got a lot to say.
They got
You got a lot to say about what?
Yeah.
What are you doing to change? What are you doing to change them circumstances? Because guess what? I'm sorry, right?
No, go ahead.
Because you got some kids, right? Like, because guess what? I used to be one of them, right? Like, I always knew that there was more to life. You got a lot of these kids who believe that there's more to life, but without the proper guiding hand, right? How do you get there, right? The difference, and we talked about this throughout another episode that we had, where we talked about the power of mentorship, right?
Power of mentorship.
The power of mentorship. The right mentor can take you anywhere because our counterparts, they're learning about stocks at an early age. They're with dad at breakfasts, brunches. They're with they're learning business. They're learning certain other skills. Everything that our youth are doing today that we can say, oh my God, is bad, it's a business. They just put in their talents into the wrong source. So if you were to teach them, like, for example, for me, I learned probability as you know, in my youth, playing dice. That's how I learned probability. Like, listen, playing CeeLo, that's how I learned probability, right? But guess what? It took for the right person to say to me, you know that's probability, right? We was in high school playing cards, and it was like, okay, it's probability. The likelihood of this card coming out
was almost 100% because we was wrong.
Yeah, the odds were in our favor, right?
Right.
So again, I think, you know, when we're talking about the youth, if you're not out here really putting in the work, if you're not mentoring,
Can't be out here.
You have no space to talk.
Putting in work for yourself.
You got to put in the work for yourself.
You can't just be going out there just saying stuff because it's okay to say, right? You got to be.
It sounds cool. Everybody's looking for an Instagrammable moment.
And I think that's part of the issue, though, is that the internet has even confused the working person.
Because it's not glamorous.
Working is cool. Like, go get your coin how you got to get it. But in regards to street culture, these kids see you in these comments. So this is how pedestrians or civilians get caught up. Don't be in these comments. For what? On his blog page, you have no business here.
Don't entertain it.
So it's not for your entertainment. And then we had this conversation until it hits close to home to you. Now this has to stop.
This has to stop. This is the last straw.
But you're contributing to it. You're contributing to it by commenting and being entertained by the nonsense on the pages. So it's one thing doing the work, but it's another thing you going to work and then it being entertained by what's going on in the street because it's a culture.
Let me tell you something about y'all kids, right? So we did the love language quiz with some of y'all kids, right?
Real right.
And what we found out was that their love language is quality time. 98% of their love languages that was resourced was quality time.
Yep.
They want someone to be with them. So if you're yearning for something, that means that you're probably what?
Deprived of it.
Deprived or lacking of it. So one of the things that we can do is, instead of talk, be with our children. No matter, and Snug and I was talking about this earlier, and it may seem like they're not interested.
Right.
Yep.
It may seem like they're giving you your ass to kiss, right? What do you say? Respect. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, what's the word I'm looking for? The phrase I'm looking for. Excuse my language.
Okay.
Right. Excuse my language. But at the end of the day, they actually want you there. They actually want to spend the time with you. You know, even though if they're putting a shield up and putting a boundary up or whatever, they want to spend that time with y'all. So. We did. That's the data. I'm giving it to you.
And the same things we want as adults, they want as kids. The same things I want as an adult, I wanted as a kid.
Absolutely.
It doesn't change. Only thing that changes is the age and sometimes the mentality. But so let's bring it back to our kids, right? So for me, I didn't become or even think about being a nurturer to my sons until I found out what I wanted for myself.
Facts. 100%.
So once I identified that goal, I had to transform my mindset. And when I transformed my mindset, I had to go to therapy. I lost a lot during that time. But one thing I gained was myself, to where I realized that I was able to be this.
Sense of self.
Sense of self. And people don't know who they are, what they want. So now my sons have the nurturer that they deserve from me as a man.
See, and for me, even as a broken person, right, I knew hands down that in this particular area of my life, now that I'm putting on a new hat as a father, I knew this is where I'm going to excel. I'm going to give my son everything that I didn't have and more. So I knew that going into this, like, all right, this child is going to be born, and I knew everything that I wanted from my parents. I knew everything that I wanted from my father, right? So I'm just going to do the opposite of everything he did. Point blank, period. Like, you know, we had the conversation, you know, shouts out to my dad. You know, I love you. Talk to him every day. The other day I bought, you know, my son over there to kick it with him. I'll provide you guys with the pictures if you guys want to see it.
Of course.
And all of
course.
and all of, you know, and all of his grandchildren. So my sister was there, her kids was there. So it was a whole family affair at my dad's house. But, you know, I have no shame in my game saying that he wasn't what I needed him to be when I needed him to be it, right? And just knowing that, it allowed me to say, you know what? In this area as a father, I don't have much room for error, because any room for error, I can be the detriment to this child.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
You dig what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, and we also got to look at it from this vantage point, right? And we spoke of it in Back to School. There's some parents that are overworked, that they're working so many jobs, they can't be home as much as they want. But these programs, like your FIRE program, like your program, Snug, like programs.
Shout out to FIRE. You know,
like,
I can latch in.
like programs that you're involved with. We need to get behind these programs, whether it's financially, or just promoting them and knowing that, okay, these programs are going to be a betterment for the children in our community. That, yeah, we're not going to be critical of them anymore, but it's being silence is violence, right? Not saying nothing to the kids that are running around in the pool shiesty, man. Okay, all right, Corny Dads, we won't be critical to them anymore. We won't talk down on him. We just won't say anything and let them run the streets wild. No, we don't want to do that.
Wow.
We don't want to do that, but we want to get behind these programs. We want to say, hey, Dan, tell me more about your program. How can I support? How can I pour in? How could I direct children to your program? Because you spoke about advisors, right? Not having all the information. Like, man, y'all kids, y'all up in here running amok. Well, what you gonna do, old head? You don't have the information. You don't have the resources. But I could guide you in the direction that you should look into. Somewhere where you can go, a program where you can go, and they could curate your strengths. You know what I mean? So even simply just doing that, pointing them in the right direction and putting them in the hands of people that can help them excel, it all helps.
And I can give you an example of that. Just this past week, right? Again, my advisors are sitting right here at this table. I go to him for business advice. And they write my emails for me sometimes. they look over my work. They tell me exactly what to do, and I do exactly what they do. So advisors, right? And I just had an advisor go to a program with me the other day. Shout out to Chris. All right, Chris comes down and I'm like, yo, listen, like these children have needs and they've been through some stuff that I haven't been through. So, bro, although I think I'm really good at what I do, I need you to come down and really relate because you've been through most of the stuff they've been through and more, right? And was able to come out of it and do something beautiful with your life, right? So he came down, we had the whole entire conversation, right? Come to find out, just to your point, when we asked him, said, how many of y'all want to get rich, right? A lot of them, I want to be rich, right? And then I said, can I ask y'all a few questions? They was like, yeah. I said, can anybody right now pull out their plan for getting rich right now?
Nope.
No. I said, can anybody tell me a goal that they have written down? Nope. No. Can anybody tell me the last book they read about wealth? No. I said, what did you eat today? Is it about feeding your brain? No. I said, can you tell me what do you have something right now that you're willing, that you know if you gave up right now, you sacrifice. If you sacrifice it right now, it will put you on a fast track to getting wealth. They said yes. I said, have you given it up? They said no. But I didn't tell them what to do. I just start teaching them how to think.
Planted the seed.
Right? So they everybody just sitting there ask us more questions. Right? Because I'm starting to see what you're talking about. So it's not me being critical. Y'all know what y'all not doing? Y'all not doing this. Y'all not doing it. Just asking the question so they can figure it out themselves. They smart enough, trust me.
Yep.
Right? No matter what the media paint. These kids are genius.
They're geniuses. There's geniuses in the hood all the time. And pointing these kids in the right direction, right? Like, we have to also understand it's more than SDE in the hood, right? Sports, drugs, and entertainment. That's all these kids. That's the path. Like, oh man, for me to be wealthy or for me to be rich, I gotta go play a sport, or unfortunately, I gotta go sell drugs, or I gotta go spit some bars with my Pooh Shiesty mask on. Nah, kid. There's a lot more out there. I think Osner alluded to these kids moving around. Some children in these communities only know the four corners of their block. They don't get out anywhere. They don't know what a beach looks like, right? We spoke of in another episode, Coney Island. That was the beach to you. How far is Coney Island? Less than 5 miles. Going to Coney Island for some kids from where we're from is an experience in itself. Some of these kids have to be taken out of their elements. How are they going to be taken out of their elements? There has to be a program. All right, these programs are most of the time underfunded. So all the adults and the parents and everyone in these communities that are being critical, they have to get behind these programs to give these children opportunities to exposure, which is going to allow them to see oh, I have a plan. I know what I want to do. I know where I want to live because I've seen these places. I've seen these nice houses. I've seen people doing what they're doing, And just knowing that, listen, you've seen these people on social media, is the wild, wild west. Like you said before, you could be whatever you want to be, but it's not true. It's not true.
It's speaking to your point, and this is my lane, right? So that's why I speak so heavily on it. You talked about exposure, right? Yep. So we took kids to the beach. We took them to laser tagging. We took them everywhere. We did everything: go-karts, waterfalls, all that stuff, right? But let me tell you when we asked them on an interview, we just did interviews with them the other day when we was at Kutztown University, right? Took them out to the colleges, and we asked them. We said, "Hey, listen, man, what was your favorite experience?" They thought about it. It was like, yo, we did have fun at laser tag. We did have fun at go-kart. We liked the beach. That was great. And it was like, everyone said the Poconos. Everyone said where there was no TV, there was no games, there was there was just them being in nature and being with their brothers.
It's a certain level of intimacy.
And quality time.
Quality time.
That's it.
Quality time.
It's
exposure.
And exposure.
That was shown.
I think in the neighborhoods that we're referencing, the adults haven't experienced a lot.
This is true.
Sometimes it's generational.
True.
Parents haven't left. Their parents haven't left, so therefore the kids are expected to stay. Sometimes people rely on their kids to get them out and show them more. So you know what I mean? So the adults are sometimes living through their kids, and it's unfair to the kid most times.
Carry that burden.
Right. So there's a sense of self-accountability that adults should carry in regards to wanting their kids to see more. But sometimes they're so stuck in their mindset because of their environment. And sometimes they can't see past that moment either. So how can you expect your child to see past that moment? Things are never as bad as environmentally. Things may be bad, but your mindset, like you can't be locked up in that mental prison to where you can't see out of that. So and you can't go there. Your feet can't carry you there if you can't see it initially. So yeah, like you can't expect your kid to be able to see it if you aren't reinforcing that. Yo, we gonna be okay. We gonna be okay. So yeah.
But I'm gonna say this to you, Snug. I think one of the biggest, I think what you just said is actually a misconception that's in our communities, right? Because one thing that God has given us is the ability to imagine and the ability to imagine, right? And now with all of this technology, right? Your imagination is just so much bigger. It's just so much broader than what we were imagining before this technology. So I think the ultimate goal is, right, when we're talking to these kids, when we're talking to these families, and then I'll talk to you, and I'll speak to the holistic approach to working with children and their families. But before we even get to that, I think one of the biggest things that we are responsible to do is to nurture their imagination, nurture their dreams. You can do anything you want to do.
Absolutely.
You can wake up today and say, you know what? I want to be a freaking astronaut.
Let's do it.
Yes, you can. I know you can be an astronaut, right? And it's not about the resources. It's about believing, right? That having that faith, right? The moment, and it doesn't matter, man, woman, or child, anytime they feel like somebody believes in them, somebody has faith in them, it allows them to work harder. It allows them to strive for more. And dreams do change. It's okay for us for a child, for an adult to say, you know what, my vision was to be an astronaut. Now you know what I want to do? I want to be a surgeon.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I'm in full support of that. Surgeon, how do you plan to do that? And having those conversations, right? I feel like oftentimes kids, they get a bad rap because their dreams have been stomped out by their communities, and their dreams have been stomped out by the hands of their parents. Their dreams have been stomped out by the hands of people that they love and they admire. They look up to you. So if you now tell me I can't be an astronaut, then guess what I ultimately believe? That I can.
Be one.
Right. Be an astronaut.
It doesn't matter where you are. You could be in a mansion or you could be in a projects. Your imagination is your imagination.
That's a fact.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And I believe your imagination gets you to where you want to be. So all I'm saying is we need to start fostering that, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter if you can't see it, right? Bruh, I've been places. I know people who didn't see because they didn't have the resources to. They couldn't see what to be, but they had an imagination of what it could be, what it could look like. And nurturing, and their parents who nurtured that without any resources, push their kids to want to go find out how, find a way, right? Because we're second generation
Haitian Americans.
Haitian Americans. My grandmother who came to America, she was a CNA. A CNA is the lowest nurse that you could possibly be, right? My mom, you know, God bless my mom, you know, she did better, right? So each generation fostered and pushed the next generation to level up and be better, right?
That's our job.
So that's our job. But where we find is you start putting your insecurities on me because you didn't do it. Like, stop doing that.
Your mom dropped a bomb for that,
we
bro.
need to stop doing that. Like, you feel what I'm saying?
Creating an identity for our children that
It's a false identity.
It's a false
Because the
identity.
world is their oyster.
They can have it.
They can have
whatever.
everything they want.
For sure.
And that to me is where it's at. And I'll stop there.
Yo, I love it. And
that's a fact.
And we talking about, so it's two sides of the coin, right? And I imagine, with information, right, our imaginations can broaden. But what about the how social media or how the connectivity to these platforms can decrease our imagination, right? It's called algorithms, right? So you get taught that basketball is it, or gaming is it, or these sports or whatever, and that's what you start watching, and that's what you go on, and the next thing you know is it starts feeding you that,
More.
and that's it, and all the other stuff is phased out. Now you just see these things, these rappers, these basketball players, and they're just like cementing your future.
Algorithms come from what you put into the system.
Facts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So guess what? If you're a parent at home, again, the astronaut example. Yo, I believe you could be an astronaut. Then guess what you start doing? You start Googling astronaut stuff. Right. And guess what starts to come up? That algorithm is all about astronauts. Like it's programming. Like, for example, Justice, JC, my son, right? He is big on track. So all that comes up is track stuff. Because you know why? Because I talked to him. No, you can do it. Like Usain Bolt? Who? Nah, they gonna know Justice Michael Shabazz Charles. That's what they gonna know, right? So you sit there and he studies. Like, you feel what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. And I hate to use Justice as an example because
I think it's a great example.
Because that's my child.
Right. That's exactly why you use them. It's a really good study.
No, but it's like, seriously, like whatever you tell them that they can do it, you believe in them. I think that takes our kids so much further in life. Like, I didn't have that. My dad didn't believe in me. Like, when I told him I didn't want to go to school after high school, oh, you're going to be a bum. Really? That's what you believe? But guess what? I'm finna show you something. I'm finna show you something.
Yeah.
But that's also because our dads didn't really know us at that time, right? They were kind of like, they're like, oh, yeah, I know I have a child, but I don't really play to his needs, right? I think as a parent or as a mentor, as an adult, you have to practice a certain level of selflessness, right? Because we say we want to push the next generation forward. So the sacrifices that we may have to make for ourselves to push the next generation forward. In my C voice, I don't know how to swim, but my son does.
My son does.
So you have to practice that selflessness and know that, all right, you know what? I might not be able to do this for myself, but I'm going to have to sacrifice whatever I do to push my child forward. And to another point, unlearn and relearn, right? We have to program these children. Last time we met, I mean, for all these gentlemen, I was able to give y'all some artwork, right? For all y'all children.
Yeah.
There was a method behind it, right? Because kids are all about imagery, right? They're all about like computers. But if they're if they're in a room every day and they see this photo on the wall, every day it's gonna mean something different to them. Every day. But guess what? It's still programming your mind.
It's a program.
It's a program in your mind to move you forward, to excel you.
It's an algorithm.
It's an algorithm. You have to use the same thing they've been using to harm us to prosper and reach through.
Correct.
Have to.
You have to program your children.
Yes.
The phrase is, you give me a child between the age of 1 and 7, I'll show you a man.
Big facts.
Big facts.
You understand what I'm saying?
Big facts.
So you can't, to your point, when we talked about school, you can't allow the school system to do it for you because you're going to get an employee.
That's what you're going to get. And there's nothing wrong with being an employee, right? But be a happy employee.
Yeah. Be a proud and happy employee.
Be happy about what you're doing. Ultimately, what we're seeing is that people, they're unhappy in the positions that they're in. And they're unhappy in the positions that they're in. Sometimes it's not by choice.
And they go to work wearing a mask.
Newsflash, y'all. Cardi B doesn't allow her daughter to listen to her music. You want to know why? Right? Because it would program her to do the things that she don't want her to do.
Right.
But we listen to it, right? We listen to the same music and jam to it and being programmed. But these people won't even allow their kids to listen to it.
And all of these phones, these apps, they don't allow their children. Like, listen, on Netflix, there's something called the social experiment, right? Where you have the people who create these systems, right? They don't use them.
I've never seen
They
any
don't
of
let
these
their
people's
children use them.
I've never seen Bill Gates' children on
addiction,
freaking
it's real
platforms.
Last person that used it was Tom from MySpace.
They learned from Tom.
No. What was his name? Was it Tom from MySpace? The guy, he was your first friend.
Yeah, Tom.
MySpace.
Shouts out to Tom.
You gotta get over the shoulder look.
Yeah, shouts out to Tom.
He's looking back like, I'm about to get this bread.
Guess what? Where's MySpace now?
Yeah, facts.
He got the money though.
So I think the moral of the story, as far as the mask off and identity, we have to really curate these children to their strengths and really show them that what you're emulating or who you're emulating, be yourself, kid.
Right.
Yeah.
So one thing that I always tell my sons is I don't care what you do, but whenever you create whatever you create from truth. And I got that from the late great Kobe Bryant. You know what I'm saying? Just create from truth, no matter what it is. And that's how I move. Like, create from truth. Like, it's no lie, and I done said this on plenty of episodes, there's no lie that anybody can tell on me to my sons, because I tell them everything.
Transparency.
There's a space.
So it starts with self, right? So what we're looking at right now is just being more conscious, right? You got to be more conscious of the thoughts, the patterns, the actions that you're taking, and just know when you're speaking from a spirituality point, right? From a lower self and a higher self, right? You know which one is steering you in the wrong direction. You know which one not to go to. Use your intuition. And kids are developing intuition at a very fast pace, and it's a beautiful thing. But we gotta, again, we just gotta make sure that we're cultivating our children's strengths, right? And sending them into a space where they can thrive. That's it.
It just is and nurture. Like, I mean, I nurture everybody you encounter in one form or another. It's no problem that is bigger than you as an individual. Like, if I had a problem and Ace was part of that problem, he's not the problem. Let me see what my role in that was. You got to accept responsibility and hold yourself accountable. And then once I accept responsibility, now I can be a part of the solution. And my approach might change on whatever the problem was with me and Ace. And I'm just using Ace. Me and Ace not beefing, y'all.
We ain't got no beef, man. We the villains, though.
That's my dog.
Yeah, man. Nah, I agree with that, man. I think, listen, man, we know that we have an uphill battle. But if everyone just does their part, we could chip away at this little by little. And I'm gonna keep emphasizing this through the episode, and I hope that you got, I want you guys to shout out your programs. We got to support these programs, man. We have to, man. Like, get behind them. Find your local program in your area. See what they need. Provide, just even if you shouting them out on your social media, just get behind these programs, man, because it's so important, man. It's so
also
important.
support the parents, man.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the
parents need support. Like, the teachers are there to teach at school, but the kids go home with homework. You feel me? So, you got to support the parents in that environment.
Sure.
So I think that's a big step. We run programs for kids, but we don't have a whole lot of access to the parents because of why the kids come to the programs. Find ways to support these parents. Parents go through a lot. Yeah. Parents go through a lot.
Sure.
Identities can change too.
Identities do change.
Right.
They do.
We talked about it before. One day, a couple years ago, I was D Block.
Nothing stays the same.
Nothing stays the same.
And now I'm Yogi Den.
Evolution.
Right.
Evolution. So these children will evolve as well.
You can evolve, and it comes through all the things we talked about: exposure, curating, nurturing. I had people to nurture me. I had the people that expose things to me. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I listen. Again, we talk about self-work, right? When I started to understand the things that was hindering me from listening to people and understanding what they were saying to me, that's when I broke through. So it starts with the sense of self. You have to know who you are first. You have to know and when I say know who you are, you have to know your insecurities, you have to know your issues, you have to know your strengths, you have to know your weaknesses, and be willing to use them and transmute them into your strengths.
And in our community, we identify those things by going to therapy.
Yeah, and we can. It's meditation. You got working in yoga, talking to different groups, having a brotherhood. A lot of the stuff that I found out about myself was them talking to my brothers. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't heal what you don't reveal. So you got to reveal it, right? And you can't hide behind these masks. We know. Some of us know. You understand what I'm saying? We're doing a lot of hiding behind the internet, a lot of hiding behind these masks. It's okay for you to be yourself. That is the key. That literally is the key to liberation. Finding out who you are, working within what you already have inside of yourself. You have everything here, but they try to tell you to go out there and get everything. Be the person that's on the other side of the screen, right? Be the person that you see on a corner or on your block. Be somebody else, but no one is telling you that everything you got is here. You just got to pay attention.
And let's just be real, right? Most of the things that society shows us and that the internet is now showing us, most of the people that are in those situations, right? They're showing us that these kids want to be like, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people don't want to be in these situations.
Yep.
They don't.
They don't want to be in these situations.
It's a fact.
Like, who wants to live a life looking over your shoulder?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's not comfort.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Who wants to, like, again, to each his own. And I'm not here to say whose life path is the right one, because I'm not a judge, right? And I ain't here to judge you. But what I'm ultimately saying is, be careful of the path that you're choosing, right? Because there's certain decisions that you make, there is no coming back.
Yes, sir.
You can't come back after that decision. You know, we have friends collectively here that are dead and that are in jail because of a decision that they made. They made a decision that interrupted their natural, what I would believe is their natural course of life. Right? So knowing and understanding that some of these decisions that are being made, right? Us as adults, us as leaders of our community, it is our responsibility to consistently instill into our youth the belief, number one, the belief in them, and number two is to just steer them. I'm never going to tell you what to do, but I do have an obligation to help steer you down the right path. If I believe that this is the wrong path, this is not a righteous path, right? Then it's my responsibility to say, it's my responsibility to say to you, like, this, hey, this is the right path, right? And that leads into another conversation as far as like being a man. That's what men do. Point blank, period, right? That's what a man does. A man is a leader in his community, a person that can stand up and speak justly about what's right and what's wrong.
Absolutely.
And if you're unable to say to somebody, hey, this is wrong, then there's a title that you just can't hold.
Yeah.
And don't pretend to hold that title.
Can't have a title without the responsibility.
The title comes with a responsibility. And it's our responsibility to be able to say, hey, you know, that's the wrong path. You should actually try this. You know what? Just try it out. Let me know how it worked out for you.
Or let me show you something. I didn't even tell you what to do. Let me show you something.
Let me show you something.
That'll
spark an idea. Remember, the younger the person, the more sponge-like mentality that they have. They will absorb anything that you put out. So, again, with the mask on and mask off, which is the topic that we're talking about right now, if you put on a mask that you're not ready to stand on, and that mask get pulled off, you're exposed.
You're exposed.
Can't hide.
And you will get exposed.
And you will get exposed. You will get exposed.
Got a choice.
You get caught out there.
You get caught out there. And I'm not talking about, you know, in any situation, right? If you are pretending to be somebody that you're not, you will be exposed. Anything that's done in the dark will eventually come to the light.
That's it.
So just stand in the light.
Just stand in the light.
Stand in the light.
Just stand in the light.
Have knowledge of yourself and be true to self.
It's a fact.
That's all we ask for.
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. That was a good joint. Stay corny.
Stay corny always.
That's so corny.